Ghost of Tsushima was released in 2020 to almost universal acclaim. Reviews from places like IGN, Game Informer, Fextralife and Game Rant gave the game 9s and above. I professed my love for the game around that time too, I have to admit that. It was what gamers have been aching for their entire lives, a break from Ubisoft's formulaic open worlds and Assassin's Creed, Batman Arkham and Shadow of Mordor's third-person combat. Hi,
You don't decontaminate. What
are you even trying to say?
But you can simply call me Amazon, and I don't think Ghost of Tsushima is special compared to those games. Like, at all. But let's start at the beginning. The very, very beginning. You are Jin Sakai, a samurai sent on a suicidal attempt at defending Tsushima, an island and your home, against a Mongol invasion. Alongside your uncle, Lord Shimura, the lord of the island, you fight the Mongols but fall before reaching their leader, Khotun Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan. You wake and tutorial your way through villages on fire alongside Yuna, a thief who saved your life. Kill some guys, pick a steed, please pick the special one that costs extra money, please, and ride off to save your captured uncle in an all-out attack on their stronghold. One samurai versus a horde of Mongols, only to be beaten by the Khan once again. Another failure to build yourself up from. This is the premise of Act 1 of Ghost of Tsushima, taking place on the biggest of 3 main acts, the 3 main sections of the map. Find a way to rescue Lord Shimura. This intro is very long, but mostly exciting. There are no way to skip cutscenes if you're playing the game on a new save, that is reserved for New Game Plus for some reason. I generally don't skip major cutscenes, but being able to skip the long, drawn-out side quest dialogue and less cinematic cutscenes that are super grating should be skippable. I say this because about 13 of the first 20 minutes of the game are just cutscenes essentially. This makes replaying the game on saves that aren't New Game Plus extremely boring. I did this to play the intro segments again for the video footage of those areas, and that's why I'm even mentioning it. I like the option even if you should use it. And yes, this matters. But before we get too negative, let's dive into something positive.
Golden pixels fall. Beneath them an empty world. Beauty hides the void.
When Ghost of Tsushima was released in 2020, it immediately earned a reputation for being one of the most visually striking open-world games ever made. Now, here's me saying that. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the prettiest games ever made. Let's just get that out of the way. I agree with those people. You could turn off the HUD, put down your controller, and the game would probably look even better. Every single moment in the game looks like it's been through 10 different Instagram filters, all chosen by a kind of pretentious teenage director who really wants you to know that they've watched a Kurosawa movie. The wind blows, the leaves dance, the grass sways in unison like it's all been mo-capped by an exotic dancer or the guy who did Gollum or something. I bet he'd be great at doing grass swinging animations. This isn't just because of its fidelity. It's a bit dated in that way nowadays actually, but because of the game's commitment to carefully curated and a coherent artistic vision, or simply style, aesthetic. The visuals here show us a world grounded in historic detail, then heightened through stylized flourishes that romanticize samurai cinema. The result is an environment that feels both kind of believable, it's almost real but still idealized. A kind of Japan that exists in dreams, in an animated Ghibli movie or here in the game. That's the first thing you see, and it's the first thing you remember when you think about it afterward. You boot it up, wandering through the opening hours. You ride through a field of flowers, the wind whipping in your face. The lighting so good it feels like you're in a prestige samurai film that never existed. It's almost distracting, and it demands you to stand still and boot up the photo mode every so often. The opening nails this tone immediately. The battle on the beach is loud and chaotic, but even here, it's not about the chaos or story behind it, it's about the framing, the visual spectacle, the graphics, TM. You see the firelit sky, the waves crashing, the silhouettes of horses riding through smoke, and you already know what the game's going to be about, even if you don't realize it yet. It's not just nice graphics, it's a curated experience. The colors aren't just vibrant, they're almost orchestrated. The yellows of the special Japanese grass, the blood reds of the special Japanese trees, the impossibly saturated golds of the special Japanese autumn. They're turned up past realism and into a kind of hyper-realistic reality. I love it for this. Lighting is its own character here. Sunsets always happen at exactly the right time, with the clouds parting just enough for the light to pour over a field like a spotlight in a theater. It's all very extremely deliberate. Mist isn't random. It drifts in when you need mystery or clears away when you need clarity. The game will happily delay a rainstorm just so your duel can happen under a blood-red sky. And if you stand still for too long, you half expect a doe to come and check up on you, a bird to land on a rock nearby and start singing in the most beautiful tone you've ever heard, adding to your already huge visual boner. The devs set out to make the most cinematic open world possible, and in that sense, it's kind of a total and utter success, almost assuredly one of the greats. But here's the problem. Once you've looked at it, you've kind of done it. This is the best part of the game, its visuals and how cinematic and curated it looks. And that's the thing. Ghost of Tsushima feels like it was made for photo mode first, and for actual play second, which, to be fair, works for a lot of people. You can wander around for hours, doing nothing of consequence, and still feel like you've had a satisfying session because you've just watched the most beautiful tech demo of all time. But even this beauty is failed sometimes by the gameplay being in the way. A crafting system that really shouldn't be in the game makes some of the randomly placed bushes and flowers shimmer like they're enchanted with Bane of Arthropods or blast protection or something. Ghost of Tsushima has one of the most beautiful open worlds in gaming, and here we go, one of the most boring ones to actually explore. It's the kind of world you look at and think, I can't wait to lose myself in this. But once you start to actually move through it, you realize that there's really nothing to get lost in past the visuals. It's like the world is made for touristy walking tours. You can go anywhere you want, kind of, but every path feels like it's been pre-approved by the man above, manicured by a professional, and sanitized and made safe for your comfort. You can ride your horse in any direction, sure, but you're never truly discovering anything past the first hours. You're just visiting the next scenic viewpoint that developers have marked with invisible tape, or the gust of wind that replaces it so well, apparently. Part of this is down to the scale and eventual monotony that follows. The island of Tsushima is big, way too big. Not in the I can't wait to climb that mountain sense, but in the I bet there's another shrine up there that I will eventually have to climb to check off the list sense. It's open world bloat disguised as grandeur. You'll cross vast stretches of fields, forests and hills, all lovingly rendered, all absolutely brimming with detail, and yet somehow they feel empty. You're not traversing a living world, you're just passing through a series of admittedly beautiful backdrops. Every couple of minutes you might spot a fox den, or a hot springs, or a high Q rock, and for a moment you think, oh, there's something there. But then you realize that these are the same 5 activities you've already done a dozen times, scattered across the map like Starbucks, McDonald's, and an IKEA. Sure, those are fine locations, but if those are my only options forever, even I will get bored with triple cheeses, venti lattes, and Alex drawers. The problem isn't that there's nothing in the world, it's that what's there doesn't feel worth going out of your way to explore. Ghost of Tsushima's open world is obsessed with quantity. It has so many points of interest, so many collectibles, so many little question marks to chase and check off a list, but none of them feels substantial. Not at all, actually. Your first golden bird is magical. Wait, this bird in the world of the game is leading me somewhere? That's fucking awesome. Let me follow it and get some cool stuff. It leads you to a new sword sheath or a cool new hat, and it feels amazing. It feels natural and immersive. Then you see the bird again. Oh, the cool bird again. Let's follow it. Then again, and again. And again, a pattern emerges. It shows you very predictable locations, one being a tree, a fox den. You see a fox, it calls to us, so we follow it. It's a short sort of trailing mission. Sometimes we have to parkour around a bit, other times it's just a short walk. You can't fail here, and the fox waits patiently for you to follow it to a fox shrine, and upgrade to our optional perks in the forms of charms. These can be cool, especially your first time around. Wow, the game has such a cool emergent gameplay and doesn't use waypoints. I mean, they even let you pet the cute thing, but they mostly suck and they all feel extremely shallow. You follow another golden bird to a particularly standout location, sit down and compose a haiku. These are surprisingly my favorite out of all of the checklists to check off. Make a poem by picking 3 things in your surrounding and get a headband with that as its inscription. I had fun looking at stuff in the world and tried to be deeper than I am capable of being. I did read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, you know. Another golden bird leads us to a set of bamboo. We press a couple of buttons and our special meter is extended. This is fine, but like the others, it's very tedious. It takes a lot of these to max out your so-called resolve, and progress is slow. Another bird, a mountain pass. Somehow they manage to make every ascent to the top the same. Climbing is safe and boring overall, but when you do it for this long and over, it's straight up bad. Climbing feels sticky and linear. It's also bound to the only button that does stuff in the game that isn't fighting, R2 on a PlayStation controller. This also makes you talk to people, jump on your horse, and so on. Context button mapping, woo, I hate my life. Another pissbird, a hot springs. This one is actually a bit fun sometimes. First of all, we get to see the Japanese samurai man's magnificent bum. Second of all, it makes some of your side quests feel more integrated. We pick a topic for Jin to reflect on, which raises your health by a sliver permanently. These also get boring but are over quickly. There are 20 of these though. There are 20 bamboo strikes to mash through, 23 haikus to write, 27 pillars of honors to press R2 on, and 49 fox shrines. That's too much. Way too much for anyone to do. I wasn't a fan of most of Breath of the Wild's Korok seeds. Not that I collected all 900 of them, but that was the useful thing about them. There are enough to where if you saw something cool in the environment, it was probably there for a reason. Fix it, interact with it, and boom, a Korok seed, to use however you please. You weren't supposed to get all of them, or even close to all of them. Instead of fixing your low health by going to 10 hot springs, you went exploring, doing different things, and then you got to choose to upgrade that health instead. The worst part is that the game clearly wants you to explore. It has all of these little cool collectibles and side content sprinkled absolutely everywhere, but this endless, samey exploration quickly became a chore to me. I stopped chasing foxes. I stopped following birds. Jin never took another bath and I became a very stinky boy. I started fast traveling everywhere because I learned quickly that the journey doesn't hold surprises. Like ever. The map is also filled with over 50 outposts. These are exactly what you think they are. Ubisoft-style strongholds filled with lots of dudes. These are almost always either samey or outright boring. The worst of it is when it isn't enough to just clear them of enemies. At least that's a quick and somewhat entertaining affair. No, some want you to stealth and free captives. Don't worry though, you definitely don't need to. The Mongols are supposed to start killing off the captives, but I never saw that happen because you can just camp in front of them and sometimes get a free hit because of the stupid enemies trying to go for the guy who is tied up instead of the one with a deadly loadout of ninja stuff right next to him. So yeah, there are around 50 or 60 of these I think, and they aren't worth touching. But somewhat samey side content can be forgiven if there's actual good quality stuff to find. Something deeper than a novel haiku. The Witcher 3 comes to mind. Sure, it's stuffed with its own share of boring, checklist-adjacent detours. If you really commit to clearing the map of all of its question marks, you'll dig up more chests in abandoned huts and ruined watchtowers than you could count. But every so often, more often than you'd expect actually, one of these question marks turn into something more. It starts with a small detail. A corpse with an unusual wound beside that chest you were looking for. A tattered note, a trail of footprints. Geralt muttering something like, a red-tailed unicorn zombie K-pop stan hybrid did this. and it all spirals into a quest line that's richer than some games' main story plots. It's a world that knows how to pull the floor from under you, falling into the fun-filled basement below. There's an art to not doing this too much, we'd start to expect it, like all the locations in Fallout 4. But Ghost of Tsushima just doesn't do this at all. Once you've followed a fox to yet another shrine or a golden bird to yet another cliff or a bamboo strike, the illusion totally collapses. There's no hidden quest curled up in a corner, waiting for you to stumble into it. It's like someone took a checklist of other open world features from other games and scattered them across the island without thinking about how they'd actually feel to stumble upon. In a great open world, exploration is about surprise. It's about finding something you weren't looking for and feeling like you've uncovered a secret. In Ghost of Tsushima, you're rarely surprised. You're following the wind to the next marker, and when you get there, it's exactly what you expected because it's exactly what you've already seen, but in a new location with another particle effect, because the trees are red instead of yellow. There's not a moment where a detour like that becomes the main event. The biggest one I found in my many hours of the game was a bear I had to weave past to get a new color scheme for my katana, which I never equipped. The bear just happened to be there. The paths you find are exactly what they look like the second you step onto them. The distance between points of interest is just long enough to make you wish you'd fast traveled, and I always tried to. But when I had to, or when I for some reason wanted to take the time to explore, I'd almost always regret it halfway through. Stuck watching my horse ride endlessly through another gorgeous but empty field. It's just missing a watermark in the corner somewhere. And this is where the movement system really shows its Japanese-inspired cracks. Jin moves fine purely technically. His animations are fluid and good-looking, and the horse feels responsive enough. But a system this boring is not good enough when you're asking players to traverse this much space without anything worth doing in the downtime. Movement in Ghost of Tsushima is almost utilitarian. It gets you from point A to B, and that's it. I'm a movement guy. I truly believe that basically every game should focus a lot of its time on movement or what goes on during your movement. Ghost of Tsushima did do this, but it's all boring, and when it's not boring, it's annoying or overly handholdy. Mountains have a path up every 50 meters, so you never have to path up somewhere. You're not chaining kind of stiff parkour moves like in Assassin's Creed. You're not gliding and climbing like in Breath of the Wild. You're not swinging through the air like Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for Death Stranding movement. Although that would be amazing, I'm asking for something to make it more enjoyable. You're just running until Jin gets tired, then jogging or riding forward. Even the jump button feels stifled. The horse, which should be your loyal exploration companion in the game, feels like a glorified sprint button. It's faster, sure, but that's all it is. You whistle, it appears 180 degrees behind you, and you ride away. To optimize this, you can turn around and make it spawn closer to the marker, which is really funny. Side quests are overall bad here. The first few are fine, and there are standouts I'll speak on in a minute, but soon a pattern emerges. Almost every quest plays out like this. Talk to the quest giver, go somewhere, and do one of a few things. Follow someone stealthily, a classic for Assassin's Creed, so it had to be included in this clone. Follow a trail of blood, footsteps, or something else to a location. Kill some guys, quest over. As I said, there are standouts and breaks from this formula, but also not really. I don't remember a single side quest that didn't do this almost exactly. This is a boring that rivals Skyrim's endless fetch quests, but at least that game had the occasional subversion. These quests also just don't change anything within the game or its world. It feels extremely disconnected from the main quest line, but also from themselves. We can do these quests out of order, whenever we want to in the main quest line, including after finishing it or during vital parts of the quest line. This is pretty ridiculous to me, and it very nicely shows us just how unimportant they are. It's kind of like how the Mages Guild in Skyrim and Oblivion never actually requires you to use magic, just so everyone gets to play the Mages Guild's massive questline. It feels disconnected from the game. These questlines are also longer than they should be. Some are 6, 7, 9 quests long. All the same, and could have been condensed into 2 or 3 longer, more interesting ones. Instead, they feel optimized for gaming on the 20-minute train ride home for some reason. If you play the game, just don't bother with these, honestly. All 20 plus of them play the same. The exceptions are most of the mythic tales. These often follow the same formula, but with at least one neat twist. Let's take this one for example. Instead of following the wind for once, we look at a drawing, a map, and figure out which way to go. We find a hidden shrine full of purple flowers. Sure, the whole reason this is special is because of the visuals, so nothing new there. We fight a boss, ride across the map, and shoot our bow and arrow at some guys to unlock a new piece of armor. It's cool because of the subversion, the map at the start being the biggest thing. Sure, again, the visuals and maybe the boss fight are what makes it good outside of that, but at least it's not just another fox shrine or follow the leader. Overall, the world created by the developers is one of the best looking ones I've ever seen. Truly. But it's ultimately boring. It's empty. There are no subversions to be found in the side content, and the side quests all follow a simple, boring formula that never changes, even 30 hours in. When I played Elden Ring, walked out from the back of the Stormveiled castle, and saw the already massive map stretching even further out into the distance, I was blown away. Not only by the beauty of it, and it really was beautiful, but also by how much content was waiting for me out there. Ghost of Tsushima has this exact same moment. After its first act, when we open up the map some more, we ride across the rice fields, burning farms scattered throughout. It feels massive, but all I could think was, oh great, another 50 things to collect, to make sure my character doesn't fall behind. It turns out Elden Ring did this a fair bit too, but there, stuff actually happens sometimes. Maybe a big crow thing attacks you on the way there. Something being the same is a great tool for subversion. I was reminded of this while scrolling the Elon Musk hell site Twitter the other day. In The Last of Us Part 2, we can sometimes find benches to upgrade our weapons. It's a relatively safe space that always looks and plays the same, but as a subversion, this happens. We're attacked. Instantly, the relative monotony of the workbench is broken. You never forget something like this. I remember seeing a video of Mr. X from Resident Evil 2 walking into a safe room and never feeling safe in them ever again during my playthrough a couple of years ago. This never happened to me while doing any of the side content in the open world. Ultimately, Ghost of Tsushima's world felt like a guided touristy tour, designed to show you lots of pretty idyllic Japanese things. It's not made to challenge at all, to make you actually engage with your surroundings. No friction. In the end, the wind will always lead you, the terrain will always reshape to fit you, and the side content will always give you exactly what you expect. That comfort might be exactly what you're looking for, but to me, comfort rarely breeds adventure.
Strikes that feel hollow. Nothing deep to uncover. Balance lost to chance.
Ghost of Tsushima's combat is good. There, I'm not dense enough to not say that. It's a huge step up from something like the older Assassin's Creed games it takes all of its stealth from. But I'm not going to lie to you. It's also not great. Let's get into why. First of all, it's very, very far from original. It's Batman Arkham Trilogy combat, but slower and more conscious. That's a bit of a dig at those games, but it's also true. They really did allow you to just stand still and wait. Someone attacks you, you press the counter button, you do the perfect parry, and boom, instant kill. That was the loop. And it worked back then, sure, but it was shallow. Ghost of Tsushima takes that same DNA, slows it down, and tries to build on top of it. And it does expand it, by the way. I've seen people say it's just Batman with a katana, but that's not really fair. There's more going on here, even if it's not completely original. So let's break it down a bit. You start with two attacks. Heavy and light, square and triangle. Simple. Heavy attacks force open blocking enemies, and light attacks usually do the damage. Once you've made an opening, it doesn't always work like this, but this is the bread and butter. This feels good. and it works rather well. It makes fights a little puzzle where you test defenses and then slip in for the kill. Most enemies only need to be broken once to die, so it's a rather quick affair. The heavy swings feel and look weighty. They've got great impact, but they don't drag on so much that they feel too long or too slow to where it locks you out of other options. The light hits connect fast enough to make things flow. It's clean, it's satisfying, especially early on. There's a blocking system I barely used. I'm more of a parry failure or dodge overuser. Yeah, I played the Dark Souls. Parries are where things get messy for me. I never really got them down during my playtime. The timing here felt off, like not completely impossible or unlearnable or anything, but off enough to be annoying to me. It might just be me, I'll admit that, but it does really feel like there's some kind of input lag, or the window is so narrow that it borders on too small. Again, probably me or an input lag problem, but it still felt off. But when you do hit the parry, it does feel rather amazing, no denying that. The lock-on here is very, very unintuitive. There is a lock-on, but you shouldn't use it. Instead, what I mean is that when you attack someone, you might just fly away and attack the air right next to them instead. It's very inconsistent. So yeah, that's Ghost of Tsushima's combat, at least early on. It's good, it really is. Better than the old stuff it's clearly inspired by, at least to me. But it's far from amazing, mind-blowing, or anything you haven't seen before. It borrows, it tweaks, it adds a little extra weight to the hits, and for the first hours, it works really well. So let's add more stuff. There are 4 stances introduced after clearing and killing a certain number of captains in the game, found in the Ubisoft-style outposts. First of all, that's a stupid way of unlocking stances. You can, and I didn't, have certain stances when you really could use them in the main quest. They never really play a part in any boss fight, maybe one segment of 2 or 3 boss fights probably, but yeah. I don't like the way of unlocking them, it felt artificial. Did we absorb them from the big guys? I'm being annoying obviously, but it feels artificial nonetheless. The stances are very simple. We unlock the water stance to use against shielded enemies, wind stance for spear guys, and the moon stance for the big guys. They all look and feel distinct in terms of visuals, but in reality, in gameplay, they all play the exact same. There are exceptions, like the spear guys having an attack that we can't parry unless we unlock a certain ability that just kind of cuts an entire attack out of the game. The game is scared that you might have fun. If you try to use the spear stance against a normal sword-wielding enemy, maybe to use the kick, the game pauses and tells you to do what's right. It's like you're playing rock, paper, scissors with someone, except if you tie twice in a row, God freezes time and tells you to say rock instead of scissors next time, because that's how he designed the game when he created the world. The developers are backseat driving in a fucking single player game, with rock, paper, scissors mechanics. It's almost so ridiculous, it's funny. So yeah, the circle doesn't go in the square hole, but it works. So let me do it either way. Because it's fun and quirky. So basically, the normal stance is the natural stance, while the others target very specific enemies. This is boring. The thing is, even if you become the best in the world at this system of stances, you still only have to get good at switching them, because they all play essentially the same. Sure, the timings are slightly different and the guy hits the other guy at different intervals or whatever, but it all boils down to this. Press the triangle button until you can hit them with your square button. The only thing that really changes is that you break their block in 3 hits instead of 10 when you use the right stance. Oh, and the developers don't pause the game to tell you to play the game their way. The stances look like depth, they smell like depth, but when we taste it, it's just Coke Zero instead of plain Coke. Again though, there are standout attacks with these stances. The kick is the most fun, but also incidentally the most overpowered. You can kick and ground most enemies in a single charged heavy attack. Yeah, I never mentioned the heavy variant, mostly because I never really used it and it doesn't really do anything. When you ground someone, you can run up to them and instantly kill them. This is obviously overtuned, and it does completely destroy the balance, but still, it's very, very fun. Especially kicking enemies down ledges, like most games with a kick, is super fun. They actually fixed this issue, it being too overpowered, in a rather cool way. They paused the game and reminded us that there is a better way to do it. What a joke. The way I would do a system like this, as someone who doesn't make games but plays a couple, is instead to have at most 3 stances. One for 1v1s that leaves you very open to surrounding enemies, a very offensive first stance that deals lots of damage. You shouldn't be completely open though, but blocking would be very directional. Then I would have the opposite of that, a very defensive stance that keeps you alive when surrounded. I don't know how to make this one fun though, but I'm sure someone down below could make a cool version of this. Last, I'd add a stance that focuses on crowd control. This one would play like the game does now, but with enemies not taking turns the way they do. Bigger parry windows that deal less damage, and bigger sweeping attacks that hit multiple enemies. I kind of just came up with this, so let's not dig too deep, but the way the stances or the way the rock, paper, scissors play right now isn't great, and I think something like this or something closer to this would make it considerably better by making it considerably deeper. It's good then that the combat is further deepened with abilities and gadgets. Or at least that's what they want me to say. In actuality, it's just made easier? Yeah, that sounds about right. Take the kunai for example. These are your average little throwing knives that stagger or outright kill weaker enemies. You aim them like tank controls in older Resident Evil games, and you can't really free throw them. This is a nitpick obviously, and they're meant to be thrown in a pinch, but I would have liked to be able to pick exactly who I want to hit. They also have no business being as strong as they are. The game really wants you to pretend that they're just a cool little gadget to give you some breathing room, to make the combat deeper or more flashy, but in practice, they're basically a free kill button. 3 enemies in front of you. You really don't want to take the time to fight because the combat is starting to get on your nerves, so you throw a kunai or 2 and kill all of them. Rock, paper, scissors quickly became rock, paper, scissors, kunai. But kunai isn't alone in our gadget belt. Smoke bombs. These put you into the stealth mode instantly and, even more so than the kunai, give you a couple of free kills. It might as well be a nerve agent that doesn't work on you or something. There are more gadgets, but they aren't worth talking about. A bomb that sticks to enemies, killing them instantly for example. This is goofy more than anything. All of this, can be patched very easily. Give me fewer of them and make them more manual. I like that you can quick throw smokes and multiple kunai, but the way they work now makes them mindless get out of jail 3 cards in a combat system that doesn't really need them. They should have been a flare to deepen it instead. This is made worse by their availability. Every fight we enter, if we take the 20 seconds to loot the nearby loot house or the bodies of our fallen enemies, our gadget belt is going to be full. This makes every fight easier in a way that doesn't feel earned. The curve of difficulty often feels stumped because, if we want to, we can just kill at least 10 of the guys on our screen just by abusing the gadgets. And then there's a bow too, which for some reason can be used in the middle of combat with a slow-mo ability. This feels a bit goofy to me. Also, enemy archers scream before shooting an arrow, which is at first kind of cool. Yeah, an audio cue, that's new. But when you really think about it, why in the hell would your enemies say that they're shooting? So, duels, or boss fights. This is where the basics of the combat are tested for real. I have extremely mixed feelings on this. I probably wouldn't have if I didn't rush into the first real boss fight so early, but I'm happy I did because it highlighted how unfair and fragile even this seemingly universally loved part of the game's combat is. Let's take a closer look at this boss fight. First of all, like usual, this looks great. 2 samurai fighting in a pond filled with floating candles. It looks cool. So a couple of things that made me kind of hate these boss fights are how, in actuality, slow these fights are. There are plenty of attacks and times where, without a visual or anything, Jin, our main character, is stunned for some reason. The double kick here is the clearest example. We hit the parry, but you aren't really allowed to counter. Instead, the boss gets off scot-free. This isn't always consistent, sometimes you get to rush in almost instantly. We're also just straight up interrupted quite unfairly in the middle of our damaging combo to have a cool moment with the boss. Swords crossed, some one-liner is said, and the boss's stamina bar we worked so hard to deplete is refilled. This fight, and probably most others in the game, are unfair. Alternatively, some attacks are rather unclear. This attack, a straightforward stab, extremely quick and seemingly placed in random places within combos or out of nowhere, did not work a lot of the time. It did work most of the time, but after an hour of forcing myself to do this fight, this hit me more than it should have. At least once every failed run. Get good, some of you might say, but it really wasn't my fault. If I were playing with software to capture my controller movements, you would, in 99% of these cases I'm showing now, see me hit the parry button here. But it just didn't work. Most people probably didn't notice this horrible attack. Most people had probably forced themselves through a slog of boring side content to blast through, but here, in my playthrough, the truth finally reveals itself. I say probably because that's what I did. After this fight, I never struggled again. I ran around, got a couple of upgrades, not nearly all of them mind you, and the fight became spam a button until he breaks and spam another one. I'm being reductive, but not that reductive. Another attack. The boss sheaths his weapon, and the tension rises. The game wants us to wait and react to his inevitable quick attack, but you shouldn't, or probably didn't. Just hit him. Unlike when we do this exact same thing, the game doesn't slow down for the boss, so he doesn't have the time to instantly kill us. This is too bad because the game really wants us to parry, but it's just not the way to go here, even if it would have been more cinematic. In the end, this combat isn't very polished. This would not fly in a FromSoft title, and before you tell me that this isn't that, take a look at the refilling Estus flask at the bottom, the Sekiro signs from the attacks, and the dodge and parry mechanics one more time. They obviously wanted something quote-unquote hard but fair. This is sometimes the case, but most of the time it's not. Like seemingly most things in the game, the boss fights are about looking like a Japanese prestige movie first and foremost, and gameplay and feel only second to that. This brings us to the stealth. First of all, I've never been a stealth person in games like this. I've played a half a dozen Assassin's Creed games, Splinter Cell and some Metal Gear Solid, but never really focus on stealth if I don't have to. If I want to play a stealth game, I go and play a stealth game. But most games need stealth system nowadays for some reason, so here we are. Ghost of Tsushima's stealth systems are bare bones to say the least. If you have played an Assassin's Creed game, you've already played Ghost of Tsushima, except remove the hiding spots and 98% of the parkour, the social stalking, and make the enemies blind. I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but also not really. Ghost of Tsushima's stealth is almost 100% there just because it has to. All theatrics, no gameplay. It's also just kind of annoying. Take this for example. I have to wait for the game to give me the prompt to chain assassinate, an awkward second where the enemies might catch me, so I panic and accidentally hit the guy with a heavy attack instead. This wouldn't happen in a stealth game. This would be polished out in a stealth pass or in testing. Here, because stealth isn't very deep, it just stayed in. Also, sound is something I never found very fun in stealth games with stealth as a second option. Let me run around and assassinate people. It makes me feel cool and like an actual ghost. Instead I have to slowly traverse, waiting for enemies to turn around, and then edge my stick slowly forward, wait for the sensitive assassination trigger, and hope the Mongols don't smell me. About that. The AI is a joke. These are supposedly trained Mongol warriors, and yet they can't see you crouched in a bush 2 feet away. Even when you're waving a sword that's practically glowing in the sunlight, his dead friends in a pile right next to it. You can throw a wind chime 10 yards away, and the guy will walk over like he's been hypnotized, totally oblivious to the fact that all his friends are mysteriously vanishing one by one. It's so low effort, it's almost insulting. Just tall grass equals invisible. That's it, basically. Sure, there's some line of sight stuff, but this is broken so easily it's almost funny. By the end, we're suspended a meter above people, and they can't see us because that's what the game wants. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't want you to play stealth. It wants you to go through the motions until everyone's dead. It really feels like the developers had to make a stealth system, but like me in school in a subject that wasn't interesting, they shipped a low-effort, barely marketable piece of average they could manage to get away with without a failing grade. The developers knew some players would expect stealth, especially with a game like Ghost of Tsushima, so instead of designing something meaningful, they just stapled Assassin's Creed leftovers onto the game and called it a day. The result is a stealth in the game called Ghost of Tsushima that feels less like part of the design and more like a knockoff version of systems from another, frankly better stealth game. It's functional, sure. You can crouch, you can assassinate, you can clear outposts without being seen, and so on, but it has no identity of its own. Filler is what it is. It's there to fulfill the bare minimum, to be able to tell your fans in the questions and answers segment before the release that yes, there is in fact stealth in the game about dishonorably stealth killing to save your island. It's too bad then that the story takes some harm from this, because the main theme here is honor and following a code. We break this code basically in the first hour of the game. We stealth kill someone and get a cool flashback. Cool. The game tries to, at least a bit, subvert the ludonarrative dissonance. Jin, our main character, feels awful for breaking his code, but after this point, breaking the code happens so much that we really don't feel his struggle. You're basically an expert in stealth from the moment the game gives us the option. We expertly and quietly kill our foes like it's second nature. I get that this is a stealth game, second only to being a samurai Japanese cool guy simulator. It's not a text-based CRPG where something like this is easily feasible. I'm not asking for that game either. That's not what this game is trying to be. But come on. Clearing a whole camp with ease as our first stealth foray outside of the escape in the tutorial is kind of far out. We assassinate a Mongol in the tall grass the same way in the first hour as in the 30th. With all that said, I wish that stealth was the easy way out. It would make straying from the path of least resistance, and it would fit better with the narrative of being the only path to saving the island. But it just isn't. With all the gadgets and special stuff, stealth becomes the thing we do to feel cool or to not instantly fail missions that force it. Fighting the horde of Mongols head-on is not only quicker but more fun because of the deeper systems and faster combat. This does not follow the character of Jin and his journey off the samurai path. I'm being nitpicky here, but it matters. Overall, the stealth is all about optics. We don't feel like a ghost, we look like one from a distance, white sheet and all. After all of this, saying that the combat is quote-unquote good almost feels like an insult. You heard all the problems I brought up, you heard all the nitpicks, there's many more, you heard all the annoying details, plenty more of where that came from, and the unfair secrets. Maybe good enough isn't good after all. But it is. There are problems here, I've told you a lot of them, but they don't overshadow the combat itself. It breaks large parts of it, and if you play in certain ways, it can break almost completely, but it's still very solid compared to lots of others that exist alongside it.
Ghost of Tsushima. Japanese Assassin's Creed. This is a haiku.
I don't think Ghost of Tsushima, overall, is a bad game. I think it's quite good if you blast through the main quest and skip all the side content. It's still not a great game, but it's good. A game to sit down and play after a hard day of work, to mindlessly kill people or to take part in a cool story and an empty but beautiful world. But that's not all. If you think that Ghost of Tsushima is special in any way at all, I think that you are wrong. I also think that there are things seriously wrong with this game. Things that take it far away from the 9s and 10s a lot of people would like to attribute to it. It's a boring, sad trope to say this, but the story is separate from the gameplay. There is a single moment in the entire game where it makes itself known as an interactive piece of narrative. At the very, very end. I'm not against a set story in games. The Last of Us and its sequel are some of the greatest games ever made to me, but they ground the story in special ways. To me, the game never did. We don't stealth because it's boring and slow. We really shouldn't explore the world because we need to save Tsushima now, but if we do, we can breeze through the other side stuff easier. Maybe they made all the side stuff super bad so we'd skip it? I'm being somewhat obnoxious, but I think that's important if you want to call it a part of the only 10 out of 10 games ever, or whatever that YouTube short told me. The combat is good. Like a 6.5, maybe a 7 if we don't figure out the overpower stuff or underutilize the gadgets. The boss fights are a visual spectacle, so is all of it actually, but they're unfair and more constricted in ways that make them annoying. Ghost of Tsushima's stealth is extremely overrated. Not because players sing its praises, but because they forgive it too easily. Because it's allowed to exist as background noise, written off as fine. Yeah, it's serviceable, when in truth it's a kind of black hole pulling the rest of the design inward, leaving everything weaker for its lack of substance. Assassin's Creed ollied, so Ghost of Tsushima could nollie, essentially. It's just Assassin's Creed with worse stealth and better combat, set in an idyllic retelling of Japan. It's one of the reasons people don't like Grand Theft Auto 4. The driving is a big part of it, and if that doesn't click, the game is automatically bad, and rightfully so. They're wrong, obviously, the driving is amazing in that game, and it fits the world perfectly, unlike Ghost of Tsushima's stealth fitting to its world, but more importantly, its story. As a final conclusion to end on, Ghost of Tsushima isn't a great example of style over substance, because in Ghost of Tsushima, the style is the substance. Basically all of it. Some of it is the narrative, which is rather great, but most of the love for the game could come down to a screenshot or a GIF. So here we are, another video out. Thanks for watching it. This one is smaller than I thought it might be, but to be honest, I just wasn't very keen on spending more time on a game I really don't have that much to say on. Past that, it's just not that special. I did find plenty of things to talk about in terms of gameplay, but story, well, you watched the video. So the Dark Souls 2 video bombed in a major way. A full-on 10 out of 10 in YouTube terms, meaning the worst performing video out of the last 10. It's very demotivating to say the least, but here we are with another one. The grind continues. I love the Dark Souls 2 video, and I was very excited for it to be seen by others to spark some exciting debate. That just didn't happen at all. Looking at the comments, these people didn't even watch the video. They had a comment prepared and went around spamming it on every Dark Souls 2 video ever. The title of the video seemingly made it sound like I didn't hate a lot of the game, and their comments are extremely insincere because of this. But enough ranting. Here's the list. I'm slotting in Ghost of Tsushima underneath GTA 4. This is subject to change, but right now it feels right. No other changes to this for now, because I'm liking how it's feeling. Especially Dark Souls 2 being out of the top 10 underneath a Battle Royale game that has fallen from grace in a lot of ways lately. And that's it. Thank you Patreon subscribers for subscribing. You guys are awesome, and I love you very personally. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, or something.